That's what I'm saying. It better be it.
Oh, sure, I'll get it.
You're there in spirit.
Exactly, definitely.
They appreciate it in spirit.
Oops, I'm not for sure.
But, I mean, it is what it is.
Is it a regular item? Table? Change the zoning.
Exactly.
Is it your interest in this?
I'm tearing the house down. No, I have no problem with what John is doing the house built.
And
What'd you figure?
Yes.
first of all, it's already inclination to see motion to the extension. That's what we talk about.
10:30.
That's not, yeah.
Yeah, that really is a good.
So I should just say, I have one, two options, stay or stay because there's no advantage of the rezoning. But it's up to what I'm doing as far as the work.
I agree.
And you're, is it current project?
Yes.
I think, I don't know, there's a current home.
Right,
So we have to-
right, you still wanna make sure they're successful when they go.
It's not.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yeah, so yes, agree 100% with that. Yeah, totally.
Which one, are you looking at moving up the eight?
Better to
Not-
stay
not-
out.
not in- yeah,
You don't want that
The oil gas is 5D.
for no reason.
Yeah, 'cause you know what you're looking for.
Well, I'll tell everybody that.
Okay.
No. I'll tell everybody
Oh,
that this is
all
not
right.
coming off.
Yeah, Mayor.
And I'll address that to one of
Okay. Time to start, so is everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
So I'm going to call the regular city council meeting of the city of Colleyville to order for June the 4th, 2019 at 7:33. So we are now in order. So let me call the roll first. Councilmember Nakamura,
here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lindamood,
Here.
Councilmember Wheat,
Here.
Mayor's here, Councilmember Dodson.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly is out of town on business, so he is not here tonight. Councilmember Rigney.
Here.
So thank you all for being here. So we will open by invocation as they always do, and it will be given by Pastor Josh Anderson of Colleyville Presbyterian Church, and then we'll have the pledge of allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, tonight as we gather before you, we grieve with those families in Virginia Beach who are mourning the recent death of their loved ones in the horrific shooting this past Friday. Father, we pray that you would grant them the peace and comfort of your Holy Spirit, and that they would not grieve as those without hope. We also pray for special wisdom and clarity of mind for Virginia Beach Mayor Bobby Dyer and Police Chief James Cervera as they lead their community's response to this heinous crime and the senseless loss of life. Father, be with them. Tonight, we also thank you for the watchful care of our city of Colleyville, the way that you watch over us. And we pray that you would continue to protect us from the wicked acts of evil men. And grant Police Chief Michael Miller courage and prudence as he leads our police department and works to ensure the safety of our community. We also pray tonight for wisdom for Mayor Newton and for the city council members as they rule on the various matters before them this evening. We pray, Father, that the council would make decisions without showing partiality or biased judgment, and that the council members would always be mindful of how the various issues that come before them will directly impact the men, women, and children of our city, and that they would at all times seek to show them the dignity and care deserving of those who are made in your image. Finally, Father, we pray that Colleyville will continue to be a place of human flourishing, of peace, and respect for all life. We ask all this in the name of him whose reign, even Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Pastor, thank you for that prayer. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Thank you for praying for Virginia Beach. I can't imagine the challenges and difficulty of going through something like that. So our heart goes out to them. So tonight, thank you for being here. As I always say, we will have some public meetings in the agenda tonight, and you're welcome to speak in any of those. It would be convenient for us if you would fill out a card there in the back that has your name and what item you want to speak on, and it gives us your address, which we need to know, and you're welcome to speak. However, I say this every time, I will not close a public hearing without asking if everyone has spoken that would like to speak, whether you fill the card out or not. I want you to be able to speak. So we appreciate you being here. So we just came out of executive session, as we always do, immediately preceding this meeting, and we have agenda item 2, which is for the purpose of passing action that may have come out of that meeting, but we do not have any action to take coming out of executive session, so we're going to skip agenda item 2. And so we will go to announcements, and I haven't forgot the request on comments. I'll come back to that in a minute. So we do, as always, have some announcements. So I did want to comment on to Thursday of this week, this coming Thursday, the Chamber of Commerce is hosting a luncheon in honor of the 75th anniversary of D-Day and to honor all of our veterans. So it's going to be at the Compass Center, which is at 4201 Pool Road. It's from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Any veteran can come there free of charge. Others, there is a $25 fee for the luncheon. Scott Murray, formerly of NBC Channel 5 Sports, is going to be the master of ceremonies for that day, so it's going to be a little bit different chamber luncheon. It's going to be fully focused on our veterans. So I wanted to mention that to be sure people know about it and can come if they can. So wanted you to know about that.
And I have a couple myself. Just wanted to report on that fire at 32 Village Lane, that it's with heavy heart that we say that that building was completely destroyed, and a couple of businesses were displaced. At this time, the building tenants have secured temporary offices. We and many in the communities, we love Regary's and hope they find a new home. So continue to pour the support out to those guys. They feel the love, and you guys have been really supportive. You've been calling them and texting them and sending them good well wishes. So I'm proud of Colleyville. That's just the way we are,
me
a
too.
hometown. And then this weekend, on Saturday, June the 1st, the city sponsored a Colleyville car show. There were over 150 entries. I was there. Kelly, Member Kelly was there. He's gone today, though. He thought that making up on Saturday would go for tonight. He's wrong. But we had also several entries that in awards. Special thanks to Ben Briner, Michael Miller, Mark Cantrell, who served as judges up for the event. And a big shout out to Aaron Spicer, Christine Johnson, and the Public Works teams. You guys are amazing. You put on one heck of a car show. It was our very first one, and people are asking when's the next one. So great job. My third one is good luck to the CHHS Dudes baseball team. They're on their way to state tomorrow, so we hope they do well. And then shout out to a kid I watched grow up, really good friends with his parents, Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah.
He was drafted number 2 in the draft yesterday. He went to Kansas City, and that's a Colleyville product right there in itself. So proud of that kid. So
We need to get him back here.
yeah, I was hoping the Rangers would be up there, but you know.
He'll come back.
Yep.
And City Hall prepares for the plaza construction underway. City Plaza construction is now underway. During construction, traffic in front of City Hall will be one-way, and detour signs direct traffic around the site. We appreciate your patience during this exciting construction project.
Yeah, just a comment, I get a lot of people commenting on the difficulty right now with that construction going on because of the lanes blocked off and how to get to parking, and probably every one of you had that same problem tonight. So we are going to put up some additional signs saying where to go to parking. There's a big lot out here that can handle everybody, but it's a little different to get to it. So if you're not familiar with this little complex, I understand the difficulty of getting there, so we'll try to put some signage to help that out a little bit.
Okay, and the fire department is in the process of replacing every AED in the City of Colleyville program. And what that is an automatic external defibrillator. So those are very important in our city, and we have 50 units, and we're going to replace all of those because they are at the end of their lifespan, and they are placed strategically throughout all the city's facilities, as well as carried by the police officers and department supervisors, because early CPR and defibrillation are the keys to saving lives during cardiac events. So the quicker that they get to someone, and of course those need to be working, so we are replacing those. And we are also going to equip our Parks Department concession stands with some AED units, and then provide some training to the league volunteers. So we'll have those out there in case they're ever needed. We hope they're not, but if they are, we've actually used them a few times last year, and we want them working.
Yep, they do make a difference.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, I wanted to let everybody know that on Friday, we kicked off the library summer reading program. And if your kids have not gotten a chance to sign up, I hope they do so soon, because otherwise my kids are going to take all the prizes. They've already been in a couple times. So it's such a great program, and I know we want to thank a special thanks to the Glazer Foundation, the Library Foundation Board, the Friends of the Library, and all of the Colleyville staff, because it was a great party on Friday. to kick off the program. But you can sign up anytime. I think it goes through the end of July. And the theme this year is 3, 2, 1, read. So all the themes, the little prizes have a little space theme. So they're a lot of fun. So.
Great. And I wanted to mention, very quickly that also on Saturday, in addition to the car show, the fire department held a training session for CPR, and I and my wife attended it. It only took an hour, and it was amazing. They've simplified the CPR approach to the point that you only use hands to resuscitate someone, and they did a fabulous job of training. I put that on Facebook, and I've had about 25 people look at it and express interest. And I spoke to the fire chief earlier, and he said they're probably going to be offering these once a quarter for now. Certainly, they can offer them more frequently if people are interested. But the city has been able to save, I think, 5 people. Is that right, city manager? 5 people who were physically dead. Their heart was not beating, they were not breathing in the past year plus. And they told us in that session that it was only because people started CPR before they got there, that if you have to wait 2 or 3 minutes, it may be too late. So it's really critical that everyone knows how to do it. It's very simple now. You don't have to stick your hand in their mouth or do all the things they used to have to do. Anyway, so be looking for that. There'll be announcements on the website and other things when they offer the next session. And finally, there's an impact to our building department due to a pending passage of HB 852. It hasn't been signed into law yet. I don't believe it's been signed yet, but it was passed. And the reason is it's necessary to revise our permit fees immediately. The new bill prohibits municipalities from calculating permit fees based on valuation, which is the current method, which is used by almost all Texas cities. The alternative proposed is to assess fees based on a unit cost per square foot for each project. Staff is working on a proposal that would address the new legislation while endeavoring to maintain revenue neutral related to current permit fees. The council will likely see an ordinance presented for adoption, later this month. So
One of those.
it'd be important for us. Thank you.
Yeah. So I do want to commend the fire chief and the fire department for these CPR classes. I know he put a lot of effort into being able to deliver a real short, quick CPR class for the community, and is willing to put that on often or even at request of citizens. And as George said, we've learned that it's so important to all of us for us to be able to do that. And what I've learned in all these discussions we had about that is when you're faced with a situation where somebody has passed out on you or is out and not responsive, you got to kind of overcome the fear or the what's the word? Maybe that's not the right word, but the challenge of just, okay, taking action and doing something. So if you've been through the course and you've talked about it, you can recognize that and take action and do it immediately.
Exactly.
Doesn't hurt to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the thing is, it's better to hurt them while you're doing
Yeah.
it than have them die. I mean, it's literally that's the situation.
So thank you all for the announcements. So we do have a proclamation to give, and we have representatives from the Dallas Regional Census Office, Jennifer Pope. You would come forward, and we're going to do a proclamation. Thank you for being here. So So we're getting ready to have a census. Well, this is the year to do the census. This only happens in 2020, once every 10 years. So this is a big deal, and it's important to all of us, all the cities. So do you want to say a few words about this for us?
I just wanted to thank the mayor and the city council and all of the government officials for embracing the 2020 census. It's very important. We want to have an accurate count. It has to do with $675 billion that's allocated for states within the United States. And doing an accurate count is very important. We want to count everyone once, only once, and in the right place.
So this proclamation will provide some information, so let me go ahead and read it and present it to you. Whereas the next decennial census will be, that's a hard word to say, will be taken in the year 2020, and political representation to the United States House of Representatives, state legislatures, and local government is determined by the census, and whereas an accurate census count is vital to our community and the well-being of residents by helping local government plan the future, determine emergency preparedness and public safety needs, plan for transportation and public facilities, and implement programs and services, and whereas census data is used by business in deciding where to expand and build, stimulating economic growth and increased employment opportunities in our community, and while residents use census data to support community initiatives, quality of life issues, and consumer advocacy, and whereas more than $675 billion per year in federal and state funding is allocated to states and communities based upon census data, and whereas the city of Colleyville recognizes the importance and value of counting each and every resident in the 2020 census and will encourage participation in the 2020 census by raising awareness and disseminating information to the community, and will collaborate with groups in the community and organize a complete court count committee to educate and motivate residents to complete the 2020 census forms. Now, therefore, I, Richard Newton, Mayor of the City of Colleyville, Texas, on behalf of the Colleyville City Council, do hereby proclaim our support of the 2020 census and agrees to assist the U.S. Census Bureau in ensuring a full and accurate count in 2020. In witness whereof, I do hereby set my hand and seal of the City of Colleyville, Texas, affixed this 4th day of June 2019. So I want to present that to you, and we get a picture always. We wanted to do this, like it said, to make awareness of everyone, and because census data and accuracy of census is up to every one of us, because we're the ones that get asked to fill the forms out or answer a telephone survey, and if we don't do it, it's not accurate. So, by the way, isn't Colleyville pretty supportive?
It is very supportive. They've always been, even in 2010, I worked the census in 2010, and they were very supportive of the 2020 census. I mean, of the 2010 census.
Yeah. So you do great, but we did want to bring it to everybody's mind, so please take the time to respond if you get approached with this. And some of the forms are pretty long, right?
Well, no, that's the American Community Survey. The census survey is going to be 11 questions thus far, and there's going to be 3 ways that people can do the survey. They can do it online, they can pick up the phone and call, or if they still want to use paper, they can use paper this time as well.
People don't want to do that.
Okay.
Okay, before we move to agenda item 4, I did want to make those of you aware that may be here for item 7. Item 7 is a tabled resolution. This had to do with the request for a variance for a fence variance and a lot. The applicant, I want to let you know that that will not be taken off the table today. In case you're here to speak on that item, the applicants have withdrawn the request. So actually, this item will completely go away. It will not appear on the agenda anymore unless they submit a new request. So I know there was at least one lady here, there may be others, I suspect, sitting with you, they were here for that item, so it will not be discussed tonight. I just wanted you to know that, so you wouldn't have to wait around to the end of the meeting to find that out. So, and if you have questions about it, call the city manager, because, and you may, I fully appreciate that you may have questions, so please call him tomorrow.
And the clarity on that was that
Yeah.
that's completely off the table now, that's withdrawn completely.
Yeah. Yes,
That's-
I'm sure they will still have questions, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we, because it's been withdrawn, we have no action to take from an elected official city council perspective. Yeah,
That's one
won't be here anymore.
You got it.
And one other item, I have had a request from one individual, citizen comments and presentations regarding items not on the agenda as item 8. I have had a request to move that forward, so I told them I would ask the council, but before I do that, how many people here are here to talk on agenda item 8? As I said, we have one. If it's like one, I will recommend to the council that we move that up in response to that request. But if there was more that would take longer, we have other items that we need to deal with. Is everybody okay then?
I agree.
Then we're going to move to agenda item 8. And Connie Stout?
Hi, I'm Connie Stout, and I live on 5505 Janet Lane, Colleyville, Texas. Mayor Newton and city council members, thank you for the opportunity to express a concern and action to better protect our wildlife in Colleyville. Riverwalk Drive between Glade and Hall Johnson is a scenic roadway that passes both the Justice Center and Colleyville Center. It includes strategically placed ponds, which make an attractive habitat for ducks, geese, and turtles. Recently, the ponds have been home to several families of young geese that are a joy to see as they hunt for worms in the grass and swim in the ponds. Riverwalk is also a road where a lot of people drive fast and don't seem to pay attention. The road has curves that may entice some people to speed even faster. Unfortunately, ducks and geese don't know to stay clear of the road, and some have been killed recently by inattentive or uncaring drivers. This has been a subject of a lot of conversation on social media. I do appreciate that the city has recently placed a radar-activated speed signs on the Riverwalk, but there is actually more that could be done. The geese are federally protected wildlife, and they come to our city because we have water features that are inviting to them. So actually, they are here at our invitation. The animals don't know the danger, and they can't speak. So I'm speaking for them and also for other concerned citizens. My request is that the city install additional duck crossing signs, speed bumps along Riverwalk to slow down drivers who aren't paying attention or really don't care how fast they are going. This is a need that has existed for a long time for the safety of pedestrians as well as the geese and the ducks. I ask that you please take this under consideration and do the right thing to protect our wildlife so we can see beauty instead of carnage on the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy, yeah, you weren't here when I moved this item up, and you speak a lot. Do you want to speak on this item? Come on.
I'm Kathy Hadley, 204 Timberline Drive North, to represent myself. I'm not going to be as eloquent as her. She did a wonderful job. I responded online. People need to slow down when they see geese crossing. And I am so brazen. I stop, I'm flashing my lights, and I'm raising my hand and out the window to get people to slow down, to stop. When twice on Glade, Mother Duck and her little babies are crossing the road. You know, if somebody hits a duck, I'm gonna follow them and get their license plate. You know, I know some people aren't capable of doing that. Maybe they see it and they're not in their car. It is time. These geese were here, well, back in the day whenever Miss Hall's was actually a pasture. Now it's just a big old, I can't think of the name of the residential area. It's a nice neighborhood. The geese flying south through the winter would stop in the pond and rest. And it was such a lovely sight to see. So yes, they do come to Colleyville. This is one of their stopping areas. And their natural stopping ponds are not here anymore from when I lived here. However, they are still coming here. And I am ready for y'all to put up some cameras to catch these jerks that don't slow down, that hit these geese. They need protection. And a speed limit sign is wonderful. A lot of people don't pay attention to a speed limit sign. They just blow right through. But if they get a camera, catches their license plate, a good stiff fine will stop and get their attention. And it will start the process of people being careful for our geese. This is Colleyville. Colleyville is very special. A lot of cities do not have the fine qualities we have. And I bet you anything, the people that are hitting the geese don't even live in Colleyville. They're just flying through to get from point A to B. They don't care. Well, I care. And I think I would like for y'all to get, if we have to, get some cameras and get their license plates and fine them good and make them wake up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that was agenda item 8. So we will, thank you both for speaking. We appreciate it. For you that may not be familiar, those are comments on items not on the agenda, so we really can't discuss those right now, technically. So we'll move back to agenda item 4, but we do hear you and take that into account. So, in fact, City Manager, has this been addressed in our Traffic Advisory Committee before, or should we bring it up again?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we discussed this at our last meeting.
Yeah.
We did talk about a lot of different possible solutions. We do have a crossing there. We do have signage. We are looking at studying the speed to make sure we don't have speeders, and if we do, to assign patrol units to enforce the speed. We're also looking at putting up additional speed limit signs and trying to make residents aware of that area has been a battle for us.
Yeah.
In the most recent case that was on social media, there was a lot of discussion about one car stopping and then another car going around. And the concern was that the car going around was speeding. The other issue is the car going around doesn't necessarily know why the first car stopped, and so there may be accidents occurring there as well as far as the hitting of the animals. So we did discuss it at our last meeting. We'll discuss it again in our next meeting, and we'll have the information from the traffic study to determine speed in that area.
Okay, very good.
Could you
That's,
also suggest, could you also suggest to your committee that maybe we talk about putting up fines, signs that say a fine and $500 if you hit one or something like that? Maybe you could present that as well to them, just an idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. The one challenge we have is if you have someone who hits a duck and they hit it because they're either driving erratically or they're just speeding, or they're just somebody who is just unfortunately a bad person. That's easy if you see it, but often when these things are happening, no one knows exactly how it happened, and it could just easily be someone who just didn't realize the animal was either traveling at night or they were actually going around someone not realizing there was an animal there. And so we've got to be very careful as to how we would provide such violation notices, but it's something we'll discuss at the meeting, absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't know if that might give a little more of a deterrence to them as well, for people to pay attention, so, okay, thank you.
No problem.
okay, so I said we couldn't talk about it, but we did anyway.
Well, I was
So-
going to
No,
your
that's
tra-
okay. I
your
did it.
committee.
I started. It's okay.
I was talking about your committee.
Because I did want everybody to understand, we do hear these things, and we do what we can. It sounds like a trivial problem, but it's actually not. Okay, we're moving to agenda item number 4. That's the consent resolution. And we'll have a reading and public hearing. This is Resolution R-19-4388, a resolution approving city council action under consent items at the regular city council meeting of June 4, 2019. Whereas city council has taken action on certain items on the agenda under consent items, now therefore be it resolved by the city council of the city of Colleyville, Texas, Section 1, that the agenda decisions approved by city council action under the consent items as follows are hereby adopted. A, approval of the minutes of the regular city council meeting of May 21, 2019. B, approval of the minutes of the regular city council meeting of May 7, 2019. C, approval of the Colleyville Community Garden Advisory Committee bylaws. D, approval of a professional services agreement with MSA Professional Services, Inc., DBA Arston, in the amount not to exceed $66,511 for the design of the West Coat at John McCain Intersection Improvement Project, and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement. E, approval of the construction contract with SRH Landscaped LLC and for the Colleyville Tree Restoration Project in an amount not to exceed $73,330.15, and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract, and it is so resolved. Okay. Ray, was Ray gonna, there you are, I didn't see you. I thought I saw you out of the corner of my eye walk up there.
Mayor, I'm sorry, just a moment. Mayor,
I-
did you not want to address item 4C
I will
before?
in a minute, we'll run through.
Mayor, council members, good evening. Ray Silva-Reyes, Director of Public Works. I'm here to seek approval for a professional service agreement with MSA for the design of West Coat and John McCain intersection. As you recall, during our last work session, we discussed this potential intersection, the congestion at this intersection. As you may know, the intersection of McDonald and West Coat is at 90% design, so meaning that the next step will be to finalize those plans and get them into construction. Then we have to look at the next congestion point, which is just up the road at McCain and West Coat. We looked at two options to improve this intersection. We looked at doing a right turn lane to help the traffic that is now being helped out with this roundabout, and a further or more long-term option of doing a roundabout there as well. And when I asked the consultant that was doing McDonald to give me construction cost for each option, it looked like the right turn lane was gonna cost us about $100,000 with the mini roundabout at that area, because it's gonna be a little bit smaller than the one McDonald, was gonna be around roughly $400,000. So the cost difference between those two options is pretty insignificant as opposed to making a long-term improvement to that intersection. So we decided to move forward with that and present that to you at the last work session. And with this design of this mini roundabout, it will be designed on the heels of the McDonald roundabout, meaning that when construction is completed, both roundabouts will be done almost at the same time. So I recommend approval for the design of this roundabout.
Yeah, very good. And that's very good news. We talked a lot about this last work session, but just so people understand, there's been a congestion issue at both of those intersections, and we put a lot of effort into doing the one at McDonald and West Coat. However, especially for the people that live in Monticello subdivision, the John McCain and West Coat intersection is a problem. So we have studied that for a while, actually, and looked at basically three alternatives. One, a full-blown large roundabout and traffic lights, and a right turn lane to mitigate, which would not do anything for Monticello people, which was coming east on John McCain trying to turn left off to West Coat to get back home. And so you guys determined that we have all the right-of-way to do a small roundabout. You've already talked about the cost of that is not excessive because that would be a full-blown final solution.
Correct.
Versus spending money on a right turn lane and then having to rip that out and redo it later. And that can be done basically at the same time we're doing the West Coat McDonald roundabout. So we'll kill all that with one stone.
Correct.
So that's a great solution to me. Anybody have questions?
Ray, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I had addressed it in work session and wasn't brought up. What about that piece of cement that sticks up there that everybody hits nonstop? Is there a way we can go in and get rid of that beforehand?
I will look into that.
Would you
I'll make it
please?
happen.
Because I know more people hit it than not.
Correct.
Maybe
Thank you.
That's
sideways concrete saw to
There you go. Yeah.
Whose idea that was
Yeah.
We'll take
not really
care of
good.
it.
You need some more to do, I know you do.
Just for clarity, for people that may be listening to this, it's not a chunk of concrete, it's a curb, right?
It's
So
a
you're not
raised curb.
damaging your
Yes.
car.
It's a chunk of concrete.
raised
It's almost a speed bump. for
It's
no
a curb
reason.
every time I hit it, so.
It is a raised curb to
Yeah, it's,
delineate the traffic as it's coming from
Right.
West Coast.
Right,
It
it had
was-
its
it was-
purpose
it was
at
put
one
there on
point.
purpose.
Yes,
Correct.
it
Yeah,
had its
okay.
purpose at one point, but I don't know that it was really thought
yeah,
through
no, I
or whatever.
understand.
yeah.
It's inconvenience, no question.
So it is a chunk of concrete.
Okay,
We'll take care of that.
okay, very good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Was anyone going to speak? Did anybody have any questions? Yeah, there you go. Lisa, come on up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Lisa Escobedo, the Parks and Recreation Director, and I'm happy to be here this evening to discuss the construction contract with SRH Landscapes LLC for the Colleyville Tree Restoration Project. In spring of 2017, the Fort Worth Transit Authority paid a mitigation fee of $271,000 to the city of Colleyville due to the removal of trees along the railroad. These funds will be used to install trees to provide a means of noise mitigation for the residential area near the northeastern extent of the railroad, near John McCain Road and State Highway 26. The mitigation for this phase of the project will include the installation of trees, shrubs, and irrigation. We received 5 bids on May the 16th, 5 sealed bids. And staff recommends the approval of the contract with SRH Landscapes for the Colleyville Restoration and Mitigation Project in an amount not to exceed the $73,330.15.
Very good.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
Just a quick comment. Their visual mitigation, noise mitigation is not possible with the space that we had within which to work. And so the amount of trees necessary would have required much greater density, and we were unable to fit them in there. So this is more visual mitigation, not noise mitigation.
And I guess one other comment, council has decided in our work session where we talked about this, so this doesn't use up all of that money from Tech Trail. And so we're gonna, with the remaining money, we will have the tree board make recommendations on how to use that funds for trees throughout the community.
And we're also putting some along the trail as well.
Yeah, right, and along the trail,
Yeah,
right.
this is just one phase
Yep,
of it.
one phase, correct. Any question for Lisa?
I just want to thank her for doing the 5 bid process. Those processes are working really good for us, and we're saving a lot of money. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity and the time to do it that way.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
So the item 1C that the city secretary commented on is the approval of the Colleyville Community Garden Advisory Committee. There is a modification in the last item on that I would like to make and propose. So if you would allow me, when it comes time to move to approve this, I will make the motion and read that into the motion as we do it.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, with that, I'm going to open a public hearing. Public hearing is open. I do have a card, Kathy Hadley.
Kathy Hadley, 204 Timberline Drive North, represent myself. I would suggest instead of just nice big tall trees, plant trees that bush out so that it will help to reflect the noise of the train for the people, the residents that are up against the tracks. That will help a lot. Big trees are beautiful, but if they can get some trees that bush out, that'd be even better. And I was in such a hurry, I thought that this was talking about the, I guess this will be later, will I be able to speak on the gardening and stuff around the Colleyville Center? That's, I'm gonna be speaking about that.
Oh,
I know you can't
yeah.
talk, but anyway, I'm all for doing the trees, just make them bushy. Thanks.
thank you. That's the only card I have on this item. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item, any of these items? I see no one indicating that, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. So if there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion. Any other questions?
One thing,
Yeah.
I know that a large percentage of the trees that they're talking about are live oaks, so they will be evergreen in that sense. So, you know, I'm not sure the others are poplar or something like that. I'm not sure of the other trees.
Yeah, I know there's color coding on here, but I can't read it.
Yeah, I can't either.
Yeah.
So anyway, but
Yeah.
we're getting trees and that'll help from
Yeah,
visual.
you know, when we talked about this a long time ago, when we first started this, we actually had a sound engineer come out and do a lot of studies.
Yes, sir.
And the reason you said what you did about really vegetation, no matter, we can't put it thick enough to really make a noise mitigation, because that's what he told us and had the data to back that up.
Yes, we
So-
actually had a study done of all the different scenarios.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, Mr. Mayor, just a note, the reason why all these trees are located north of John McCain is because as the mitigation funding was provided for trees that had been removed, the vast majority, but for a small handful, came from this area.
Right.
And so this represents a portion of the funding. It was 272,000 total. But this is a portion of it, but that's why the concentration up here, and that's why this phase is going in first.
Yeah, and they took out, what, hundreds of trees, I
Yes, sir.
believe, because they actually moved the train
Right.
track
Yes,
further west. So, but it was on their property.
yes.
But fortunately, we appreciate the fact that the city manager and the mayor got involved and were able to obtain that funding. Very helpful.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to make the motion now, if we're ready. I move to approve Resolution R-19-4388, being a resolution approving city council action under consent items at the regular city council meeting of June the 4th, with the stipulation that Section 6.1 of the bylaws being approved in item 4C be amended to read as follows. 6.1, the board may recommend amendments to these bylaws by a majority vote of the members present at any regular meeting of all members, if all members have been provided notice of the proposed amendments not less than 72 hours prior to such meeting and a quorum is present. Recommended amendments approved by the board will be placed on the city council agenda for consideration and adoption by the city council. The city council may approve, deny, and/or modify the amendments recommended by the board, provided all amendments must be in compliance with applicable city ordinances, resolutions, policies, and/or rules. So as a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion approved by the mayor with changes and a second by Councilmember Rigney. An explanation of that is we got into discussion, city manager, city attorney and I, about that particular item, and we've tried to keep all of our bylaws of committees the same.
Yep.
And the wording has been expanded. The intent of the original wording is the same, but somebody could read it and not understand or be clear on who could actually do the final approval. So this makes it perfectly clear, so that's the reason. And this is for the garden committee only. We will intend to come back and put the same wording in all the other bylaws at a future date. Okay, so with that, would you open the vote, please? May show it when it's ready. So that motion is approved and the resolution is approved. So we will now move to agenda item 5A. 5A is the first reading and public hearing of ordinance O-19-2080, consideration of a special use permit for an accessory dwelling on Lot 30R, Block 1 of the Montclair Park Addition located at 5305 Miramar Lane, case ZC 19-002. Ben?
All right, thank you. Ben Briner, Director of Community Development. As you stated, this is a special use permit for an accessory dwelling at 5305 Miramar Lane. Here's an aerial photo of the site. So they are proposing an accessory structure which has a full kitchen in the backyard area, thus the classification as an accessory dwelling. The current zoning on the property is R20, Single Family Residential District, and it is designated for residential use on the future land use map. The Land Development Code does have standards for the accessory dwellings. It does require a special use permit approval by the City Council. They do fall under accessory structure requirements as well. But specifically for accessory dwellings, they shall be limited to no more than the most restrictive of the following three. First is 50% of the primary structure, square footage. Number two, the maximum allowed square footage for accessory buildings on the lot, which we've recently modified to 4% of the total lot area. And then also no more than 1,200 square feet. So whichever comes first of those three, that's where it gets capped. So I did provide some information as far as this site specifically. So it is a 41,780 square foot site. The maximum lot coverage for the zoning district is 30%. So all structures, when we calculate the footprint for those structures, cannot exceed that 30%. And for accessory structures, which is a subset of that, only 4% of the lot. So this would allow up to 1,671 square feet on this lot. And then you can see the existing square footage of the house is 7,830. They are also building a shade structure of 337.5 square feet, and then the accessory dwelling at about 926 square feet. That does include a covered porch area, but that total together for accessory structures is 1,263.5, so it is underneath that 4% threshold. And then total square footage is 9,093.5, so again, meets that threshold as well.
Okay.
Here's the zoning exhibit. Again, it will be in the rear of the property. It is proposed at 11 feet 9 inches to the south property line, which in this case, actually, I think my north arrow is wrong. The south actually would be to the right, the shared property line to the neighbor. 23.5 feet to the rear property line, which would be Montclair right-of-way, and then 20 feet 6 inches from the house. It is a single-story structure. They do have a 12-12 pitch on the roof, which matches the house, and that takes the total height to about 22 feet. We do have some distance requirements based on the height of the structure. It does comply with our standards and requirements for that. Specifically, where it comes into play is along that rear property line, because that's where the gable is. But at the 22 feet total height, they would have to be a minimum of 19 feet from that property line, and they are at 23.5 feet, so they do comply with our requirements. They are utilizing the same materials as the house. They do want it to match as close as possible. The reason this is being classified as a dwelling is because it includes a full kitchen. They will intend to use this as a pool house, but we wanted to bring this forward to you for approval. It could potentially be converted to a dwelling rather easily, and so we wanted to make sure the city council approved it. Just another view showing the roof. This is just a photo from Google Street View. This is from Montclair looking towards the rear. It'll be in this backyard area. You can see the roof line. Again, they are trying to match that roof line and the materials as well. We did send notices out to surrounding property owners, and I believe we received one in favor that was provided to you. It was not in your packet. We received it, I think, yesterday.
Okay.
Staff does recommend approval. It does meet all of our standards. And this did go before the Planning and Zoning Commission at their May 13th, 2019 meeting, and they also recommend approval. And with that, I can answer any questions.
I have a question, Ben. Anytime I see an accessory building that is basically equivalent of a dwelling unit, it sets my concern because that could be rented, and I know we have buildings throughout the city that are being rented. Is there anything that we can put in as a restriction that this cannot be used for renting to someone outside the family or an employee?
Absolutely. As a special use permit, you can place any conditions you see fit. We do have regulations prohibiting the rental, but this would just be a reiteration of that. You can add that as a condition.
I would very much like to see that added because, as I say, I know what this area is. It's a major major positive area of the city. I doubt that will happen, but I would like to see it for any buildings of this type that we approve going forward.
Okay.
I recommend adding that at this time.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Sounds good.
Okay. Then I'm gonna open a public hearing. Public hearing is open. Have any cards?
No, sir.
I have no cards on this item. Does anyone wish to speak on this item?
Good evening. Rodney Owens, 5305 Miramar Lane. And I completely agree with you, unless that precludes me from moving out there. So if the census lady was still here, 6 at my house,
Okay.
2 of which I
Well,
will
you may
not,
have to live there, you just don't rent it.
2 of which I will not give the ages, but the other 4, 10, 7, 5, and 3. But I am glad you brought that up, and I completely agree with you. Within Montclair Park's restrictions and covenants, it does address that as well. It says that you can only have 1 single-family residence per lot.
Understand?
And honestly, we just, we moved back to Colleyville. This is kind of our dream house, which enticed us to come back. And you get caught up in that, and then the first real summer you have, you're like, where's all this shade? The kids are getting sunburned, and so I'm a builder and I'm a developer, so we wanted to go through the right channels, and my wife and I like to cook in a kitchen, not outside, and surprisingly, my kids like to eat.
Good.
But I appreciate y'all looking at this, and we plan to be there for quite a while. And
Good.
so there's certain family members I will not even let stay in the house. Let's spread it out. So,
Now, you're gonna get yourself in
This is
trouble.
on camera, you know, right?
well, that's my side. That's my side. I'll be clear. Not my in-laws. I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? I see no one indicating that, so I'm gonna close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. I appreciate your comments on that. So tonight is first reading. This is an ordinance. It takes 2 hearings and public hearings, so we will not take action tonight. So it'll be on the agenda next time. We'll take action and vote on it next meeting. So we will move now to agenda item 5C. But before we do that, at the risk of really embarrassing my dad, it's very unusual. My dad just walked in the room. His name is Cecil Newton. Dad, can you stand up for us? I'm very proud of this man, so it's rare that I get the opportunity to introduce him, so thanks for coming.
Mayor, are you going to talk about him a little bit?
Yeah, so he's 94 years old. He's a World War II veteran, so I believe I've convinced him to stay till Thursday to go to the chamber luncheon, so you guys will get to meet him and talk to him. But he is, I just got to tell you, he's my hero. He's one that taught me everything that I know, so I really appreciate him. I'm very blessed to still have my father.
You sure are. Absolutely.
So we're now at 5B. I said C, but we're at 5B. And this is reading and public hearing of ordinance O-19-2081, consideration of a zoning change from agricultural district to R40 single-family residential district on Lot 1, Block 1 of the J.M. Presley addition and 17.5 feet along the east boundary located at 2308 Glade Road, case ZC 19-003.
All right, thank you. As you stated, this is a rezoning request from the agricultural district to the R40 single-family residential district. Probably be best to show the exhibit as far as there is a platted lot as well as an extra area to the east that they would like to rezone. Here's an aerial photo of the site. There is an existing house there. The plan is to demolish that house and then develop with a new single-family house.
Mayor,
Yes.
should I abstain right now at this
Oh,
point? Because
yes.
I do, okay.
So you want us to tell why?
Yeah, I'm actually the demolition contractor, so I have to abstain from this and any conversations. So I'm going to back out and sit out here, be quiet.
There you go. Thanks.
As I stated, the current zoning is our agricultural district. but the property is designated for residential use on our future land use map. There is some vegetation along the front of the property. This is a better view from Google Street View, but again, they wish to demolish the existing house and develop with a new single-family dwelling. The minimum standards for the R40 district are here on the screen. It will comply with all of these standards. The main reason for the request, it deals with the side yard setbacks. The agricultural district, it is a platted lot with agricultural zoning. They can develop that site today. The agricultural zoning requires 25 feet per side building line inside of each property line. They are requesting the R40 to allow for greater flexibility. They are proposing a rather large structure, and that would allow them a greater footprint and presence along Glade Road. Dealing with the 17.5 feet, when they were looking at the property, they identified that there is what's called a gore strip, or basically just an unclaimed area between this lot and the adjacent lot. They are still working out, maybe they've finalized the research as far as whether they can claim that or not, and so we've added this in as part of the request. If they are able to claim it, then we would anticipate a replat in order to incorporate this area into their lot. But if that doesn't come to pass, we would just be dealing with the platted lot.
Yeah. So is there a question about who owns that strip?
I think that's what they are working out, to make sure that there is no claim on it right now that would allow them to make claim to it.
So the lot immediately to the east or to the right in this picture, does not include that 17-foot strip?
That is what their research has shown. It is a platted lot. There may be a gap between these two plats.
Okay, because when I saw that and thought about it, it wasn't clear to me if they were purchasing that to make it wider or whatever, but so my question that you don't have to answer tonight, but will expect to be answered at the next meeting, is the other lot, so there's probably utility easement down that lot line. There's got to be a side yard setback for the house that's already there to the east. Are all those things still complied with properly if this is included in this lot?
Right, so it is not a purchase from that lot.
Okay.
It just may be, these plats were done a while ago, and just for whatever reason, there may be this gap between these two platted lots. Typically, it's not as great as 17 and a half feet.
Yeah.
So they're doing all that research. We wanted to include that in case they were able to verify that there is this land.
Well, isn't it the house to the east? Isn't there, that's not a really old house. Yeah, 2400. Yeah, that's not a really old house. So that's got to have a plat, right?
Right. Yes, there is a plat. It is a platted lot, and they are
Okay.
not purchasing anything from that platted lot.
Okay, so you can answer my question now then. I mean, I think I know the answer, but I need you to answer it. The side yard setback for that house and any utility easements that may be in that plat will not be changed whatsoever by this request.
That is correct.
Okay.
But you are asking for it to be rezoned.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I was asking about his neighbor.
Yeah, no, I'm just
Yeah.
saying the parcel, without knowing ownership, you're rezoning it.
Yes,
Be an
right, yeah, so that's,
Well, we can't rezone it until we know who the owner is, right?
I think what I'm saying is that there may not be an owner. There is no claim on it.
So why can't their neighbor claim it?
Well, if they
yeah.
find it and they are the first ones to claim it, I don't know the legalities of that, but
So I think where all this is going, interesting point. I mean, till I walked, till you started talking, I wasn't clearly aware of all this, but I think what George is implying is, well, before we zone something, we kind of need to know who owns it to make sure the owner's good with that. Because we have, I mean, literally, in the past, have had some people walk in here and ask for zoning, formal applications for land they did not own.
Yes.
Which could be a real big problem.
so the applicant is here. Hopefully they can
Okay.
shed some light on
Okay.
this. I know they were working through those issues.
Okay. He can tell us in a minute.
Okay. I don't think I have much more. We did send our notices out to surrounding property owners. I I don't think that we had any responses back on this one. Staff recommends approval of the request. It does meet the designation on the future land use map. This was also reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they recommend approval as well.
Okay.
Ben, I have a question. They're only going to R40. I mean, it's a 2-acre lot, right? They're only going to R40 so they can build their house closer to the side yards. I generally have a very major concern with downzoning, for one thing, and secondly, for pushing houses closer together. This is a huge lot, and so I just have a general concern of doing that, and obviously in this, the reason they're doing it is so they can, I guess, build a wider house. But I just want to make it known that I generally am not happy with that kind of downzoning. To me, it's downzoning. They can't do an RE, right, because they don't have 3 acres, is that correct?
No, it would qualify a residential estate. It's 80,000 square feet for residential estate, 3 acres for a true agricultural lot.
Oh, okay, so RE,
But the residential estate has the same setback, side setback of 25 feet that the agricultural district has. Thus, they're wanting the R40.
So if 3 acres is required for agricultural district, how is
Right.
this 2 acres in ag?
I would need to double check. I believe it was 2 acres at one time, and it was revised upwards to 3 acres.
Okay.
There may have also been a plat waiver for lot size.
Could we just have the variance on that instead of changing the zoning, or as far as the,
Well, if the zoning is not approved and they come back with a plan and they are requesting closer than the 25 feet, they do have an option to request a waiver, or not a waiver, a variance to that setback requirement.
I suspect this, I don't know how old that house is, but that was probably all conformed to all the ordinances at the time it was done from an ag zone.
This existing one?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Any other questions? for
Is it a
Ben?
1-story or a two-story they're proposing?
I don't know, we'll have to hear from the applicant.
Okay.
I mean, unless you know. You probably don't know.
I don't know.
So, well, we can bring the applicant up or ask the applicant to come up
why
if
don't
they
we
would.
I'd like to know that.
Yeah.
So you heard some of the questions, could
Yes,
you
I
respond to
did.
those?
Good evening, my name is Tom Hoover. I'm Thomas Hoover Engineering, real catchy company name, right? I'm P.O. Box 1808, Keller, Texas.
Okay.
I've been asked to help the owners with this project. Going back to some of your questions, I understand the setbacks. We do comply with the setbacks on the west side of the property, but with this 17-foot leave out, I've got 17 feet. If with that 17 feet added to it, I would comply with the ag zoning setbacks. But, it appears that this piece of land that we're talking about was it was part of the original farm, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
They platted lots, and Grandpa left the piece to get into the back, and nobody ever thought about turning that into a lot. Of course, it wouldn't be compliant now because it'd be way too skinny for a flag.
Right.
And it's obvious that this was included in this particular tract because that's where the driveway is to the existing building that was built in the 80s. The trees that are along the east line of this gore strip are the large pine trees, which match the pine trees on the west side of the existing tract. So we're in the process of acquiring, we've contacted the heirs that are available, and the attorneys are working it all out. They're going to quit claim it back over to
Great.
our people.
Great. Well, in that case, if you accomplish that, then your setbacks are satisfied, even at the ag level. And the reason I say that, RE was mentioned, and RE side setbacks are the same as ag, and if you comply with those, you actually have additional benefits with RE zoning than with R40 zoning.
As far as outbuildings and things of
Yeah.
that type.
Good points.
Yeah.
When we met with the staff, it was thought that R40 would be the way to go.
Well,
Because we needed to tweak with the side yards, because we didn't know for sure we could get the 17 the first time we met with staff.
okay, but if you can, then this can easily be resolved by getting it and go to RE, then his question goes away on you.
Exactly. Yeah, that'd be
Understand.
perfect.
Yeah,
I would be very happy.
yeah.
Coming back from, I used to be in Keller back in the days,
Yeah.
and we had ag zoning back then, and we were always losing developments to Colleyville because they'd say, well, what can you put on ag zoning? And it was pigs and chickens, and Larry Cole would come over here.
Yeah.
So, so we changed our ag zoning years ago
To what?
to single-family low density.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
To
that's all you
avoid
can,
the ag-
yeah, well, on ag,
ag
you can only build a
tag.
single family.
We only have
Yeah.
single family
Yeah.
anyway.
But-
But-
Ag. We
but
only
you-
have single on ag.
But what I
Right.
meant, with ag, you can have animals. With the residential estate, I live on that residential estate, you can have actually another living quarter, which a lot of places in Colleyville do,
Right.
which we were just talking about. And you can still have some animals. So I mean, that's why I say there's some benefit if you don't have to go.
Right.
If you can stay at RE, there's some potential benefit to the owner.
Well, it'd be kind of hard to change it now because it's already been posted and advertised as
No,
R40.
No, it can be changed.
Nah, we can change it.
Oh. Well, as long as it doesn't keep me from,
No.
There you go.
what we're doing, I don't
Yeah.
think that they'd have a problem with that.
Well, because at any rate, you just heard me say, at least my opinion, 1 out of 7, is I
That's
want
true, I
to see the
understand.
17-foot strip resolved before we.
And it will be.
Okay.
And that is our goal, is once
Yeah.
that is in our hot
Yeah.
little hands, while we don't have a building crossing a lot line, we're planning on leaving our driveway there because as you can
Sure.
see from that exhibit, we've got some pretty substantial
Trees, yeah.
Sure.
that we're saving.
Mhm.
So we want to put our driveway where the existing driveway is because I think that's a 30-inch pecan and several magnolia trees.
Yeah.
Great.
Good.
I'm going back where the road is now, so they're not going to get hurt near as bad.
Super.
So that is our goal. As far as the house, I think somebody had a question, were we going to try to split the lot into two? No, that's not an option. Because we're trying to save the trees in the front, the proposed house is pretty much, it's going to be very similar in location, setback to the home on the east. So it'll be so far back by the time we have the garages that he wants for some of his nicer cars. There's not going to be enough room to put another home back there, even if we wanted to break it into two R20s, which is what's around us, I believe.
Yeah. Well, if you get the 17-foot strip, sound like we got a plan.
We love it.
Winter, chicken dinner, okay.
That's right.
Well, that's what our goal is. The attorney is working on it.
Okay.
We're hoping to have that probably in the next 30 days.
All right.
30 to 60 days.
Okay.
Great.
But what we were also wanting to go ahead and get started on the permitting process, because we know how long it takes to get some of these things going. So
Submit a permit for review.
that's what we're trying to, we're trying to expedite this. That's why we started the zoning when we did.
So the city manager says you could submit a permit for review only to get it started.
Oh, great.
I think the one question you're gonna have, Mayor, is that if you don't have the quitclaim deed by the next meeting,
Yeah.
the council, if you're asking the council to consider action at the next meeting, they probably would zone it RE
Okay,
at that time. And then you'd have to then resolve your remaining strip of land.
okay.
Yeah.
That sound correct, Mayor?
Yeah.
All right.
Either that, or table.
Right, because
Or table it, yes.
I'm not used to, like you said, getting zoning on land that I don't technically own either.
Right.
That's why we called it parcel 1 and parcel 2, just to try to,
Yeah.
We know.
Forgive it.
Gotcha.
Any other
And then,
questions?
The other question too is so when you do get that parcel, you're gonna replat the lot.
Yes, sir.
And so
Yeah.
what is your timeline for that? Because that obviously should also come before permitting.
We've got the surveyor, he's ready to go as soon as we know who's got that.
Okay. And so Ben, what's the timeline for the replatting?
It does have to go through Planning and Zoning Commission and then approved by the city council. So once we can resolve that, then we'll bring it forward as quick as we can.
The reason I asked that question is, that means you probably should try to file something with Ben to get his notice going now, so that you shorten your time, because that could be another 45, 60 days.
One question I would have, though, is since this is a platted lot right now, we could fill it, provide a permit application at that point in time, with the 15-foot zoning on R40.
Yes, but
See
you
what
were
I'm saying?
saying that you were saying that you were using the 17 and a half feet
Right.
as part of your setback, and you're planning to.
Well, I've got
use
17 and a half feet now to the existing platted lot line.
Yeah,
It's
but,
not-
but what, but the statement.
not
you just ma-
25.
But the statement you just made was incorrect, because you can't assume R40.
I understand.
Yeah, you got ag now.
Right.
You got zoning, you can do what you can with ag zoning, but
Right, which
you're
is
requesting
25.
rezoning, so what this whole discussion's been about, since your plan was to get the 17-foot strip anyway, that resolved your side yard setback issue
Mhm.
and would allow you to come in for RE, which would remove Councilman Dodson issue with this, and that's why I said, hey, if all that happens, you're gonna sail through this, but if it
Okay.
doesn't, you're gonna have challenges. That
All
make sense?
No, I get it.
The other thing, Mayor, is that it would be interesting for us to have an application in for a permit, be issuing that permit while a lot is in replatting. And so,
Right.
even though you're right, the ultimate new lot would be big enough to accommodate any concerns, those two things would obviously work at odds, and so you would be delayed. The review could continue, but the permit issuance would be post-final plat approval, and that would be a
Right.
council action. So it's only a resolution action, it's quicker than the ordinance, but it still does have some time. So that's why my suggestion is you get your notice out right away with Ben, so that we have our process beginning immediately for you, so you're not caught up in the notification
Correct.
period.
Yeah, so
All right,
that's a
well, I'll get
ben-
with
yeah,
Ben
that's a benefit
tomorrow.
to you, get it going,
Yes, sir.
All
right,
right,
yeah.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Sorry.
Is it a single story or?
Oh, yeah, two-story, okay, I'm sorry, you had that question, I forgot it. Okay, I'm gonna open the public hearing, you okay? Okay, public hearing is open, have any cards?
No, sir.
Have no cards, does anyone wish to speak, you
Back.
may?
In the back.
And did you just state your name and address and,
I actually turned in a
oh, did you turn a card in?
request, but I probably put it on the
apologize.
wrong item. I'm Judy and John Atwood, 2209 Norwalk Drive, and we don't have any issue on the zoning. We're out of all of that stuff. We don't want to get into that. By the way, just
We
to
found it,
update you,
so.
every building has been raised and it's gone. All the
Okay.
trees at the front and all the outside,
Yeah.
they're totally cut down. So there's no bush, no tree, except for on that one
Strip?
red strip left.
Okay, okay.
Our concern, and you should have received, and I know Tammy did a visit from our neighbors on the drainage, and our ask is for help from the council on the drainage in the engineering standpoint. We know there's going to be a lot of dirt pushed. Right now, it slopes very, very gently towards the back area, which is where 3 or 4 houses are receiving water. We had an unfortunate experience when 2212 Glade, which is the next lot and a half up, rezoned. Engineering took care of a little bit of water and dumped it to our one street that's in there inside Summerbrook. But most of the rest of the water then was forced through several of the the houses,
Yeah.
and makes its way down. The lady, David and Linda Gillian, who sent it, since that house has been built, has a lake in their backyard. They just finished putting in a French drain to get rid of the water, and for the first time, they don't have a lake in their backyard. They back up to this house. The Riddles next door to us and us receive the rest of the water from this 2212 Glade house. And it has been a channel of water, taking some of the dirt away from our fence line. We are just concerned, and I think
Okay.
we didn't make any comments on the 2212, and we've received negative benefits from that. I think they need to make sure how much water they're dumping off of there when they do redo the grading or whatever they're gonna do on it. We need to be concerned on what amount of water, the additional concrete, that's a very large house, the different roof area, very large house. We're just concerned, so that is the help.
Okay.
So I'm the one representing about 4 or 5 houses in there. You should have received the email. The Riddles could not be here. The Gillians asked us to come because they're with their daughters tonight before they leave.
Okay. Mark, are you running the slides?
Yes.
Put up the one that shows the aerial view, aerial picture.
There you go. Oh, go on,
Another
one
one,
more.
that one. On
The,
that, where
one lot over to the red roof,
okay,
that's 2212.
okay,
And there was one engineering that took off of the west side and dumped it into the street, the end of the circle right there.
Yeah.
All the rest of the water moved eastward and goes through the houses, not to the, to the
Okay,
north.
okay, got it. All right,
So there's potential, and that's what we just want, extra eyes to protect our area.
okay.
Judy, where are you?
I am, if you look, I'm on the corner, okay? If you take
What's
the
the
red
address?
roof, you
Okay.
go the Riddles, 1, 2, then we're on the corner of Summerbrook and Danbury,
2209,
2209.
that's the corner. Yeah. well, yeah,
The
those
lady who
numbers
sent
are
you
there.
the letter is the next one over, and on this side, the next one up.
Okay. All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone
I'm
else?
glad the engineer's here tonight to hear it.
Yeah. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? I see no one indicating, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. So appreciate you coming and talking about that. There's no others, right?
The drainage will be dealt with on the plat, right? The first plat,
The drain-
preliminary?
Yeah, traditionally, they'll submit engineering to us, and then they'll review that as part of they'll review it multiple times. They'll look at it preliminarily in the plat,
And the final,
but they'll also look at it as part of the permitting
right,
for the actual structure.
Correct.
okay.
And that site generally drains from the north end towards the south, towards Glade. So we're not pushing any water north towards her house.
Okay, good.
So, and we will be taking all comers. We take everybody's water,
Okay.
all right?
Very good.
Be careful what you ask for.
He already put that on record. I
Been
let
there, done that. As long as the downstream guy understands.
Thank you. Okay, so this is first reading. We take no action tonight, so it'll be on the agenda next time, at which we will take action. So if no other questions, I'm going to move to agenda item 5C. This is also first reading and public hearing of ordinance O-19-2082, consideration of a zoning change from Ag Agricultural District to R20 Single Family Residential District on tracts 1A01 and tract 1A02, abstract 1619 in the SCH Witten survey located at 2001 Hall Johnson Road, case ZC 19-004.
Thank you. As you stated, this is a request to rezone from our agricultural district to the R20 Single Family Residential District. Here's an aerial photo of the site. It is currently 2 tracks. They are requesting the R20 zoning. A little bit of update from what you have in the packet. I did speak with the applicant, and they are here as well. They indicated to me that the desire is to maintain or at least turn both of those tracks into a single lot and develop a new home on the property and remove the old home from the property. That's the end goal for this site. Currently, it is zoned agricultural. They're requesting the R20 district, which you can see several properties adjacent to it have that zoning currently. It is designated for residential use.
What's the acreage? 1 acre?
Together,
Over an acre.
let me just go to that exhibit.
107, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, a little over 1 acre.
1 acre, that's what I thought.
Yes.
So why well, go ahead.
Yeah, so
Make your presentation.
here's some pictures that we took. There is a home on the rear track,
Right.
away from the street, Hall Johnson.
Right.
So the goal would be to build a new house closer to Hall Johnson and remove the old house. The R20 was requested because the original intent was for 2 lots. And with the 46,000 square feet, that would allow for 2 lots. It would have required a plat waiver. After quite a bit of conversation at the Planning and Zoning Commission, I think they thought through it and decided that it was not worth their effort. So they now have indicated a single lot now, which would mean that we would not bring that plat forward to you next time, concurrent with the zoning. The R20 was needed for that to happen. I think they would like to have some of the benefits of the R20 district, but it does have acreage or enough square footage to now comply with the R30 district. It does not comply with all of the standards for the R40 district, specifically the width. It requires 150 feet for an R40 lot, and they only have about 130 feet. The R30 district requires 125 feet, so they just meet that.
Okay,
And the R20 is 100 feet, as you see here.
Yep.
So
so did, the implication, you didn't say it, but you kind of implied that they would, everything fits within R30? Everything they want to do and everything the ordinances say? So does that mean they were willing to go R30?
So that's the conversation I wasn't able to
Okay.
have. I don't know the size of the footprint, or at least how close it will be to the property lines. They might have that information. So yes, if it could fit, including meeting the setback requirements, R30 may be an appropriate district. Definitely from the dimensional standards, it does meet.
Okay.
I do have some exhibits. So this was the intent as far as a new house on the front lot. That probably is going to change now.
Yeah.
So I'll just go through this quickly. We did have some adjacent property sizes for you to reference, but now that with it being a single lot, I don't know that you need to go through that. We did send our notices out to surrounding property owners. We did receive 2 back. I think you received those in your packet. They did have some concerns for lot size and I think drainage as well. But staff did recommend approval. It does meet the intent of the residential designation, and it's also compatible with adjacent lots. Planning and Zoning Commission also did recommend approval of the zoning request at their meeting.
Yeah.
With that, I can answer any questions.
Any question for Ben?
Which zoning does it, which one? Did they approve?
So the original request was the R20 district, which would authorize
what
2 lots.
P and Z approved?
They did approve that.
Okay.
Even if it's remained as a single lot, we do need a designation other than the agricultural district. They were okay with the R20 based on adjacent properties also having R20 today.
But
It does meet with the R30.
But they were assuming a single lot.
They were assuming
So weren't
two
they?
lots.
They didn't
That's why
both.
I would like to
Well-
see R30.
Well, not necessarily. They did review the plat with the plat waiver request. They
Yeah.
recommended denial of the plat waiver.
Yeah,
And so
So
they
they-
were anticipating a single lot.
yeah, that's what I,
Okay, so they approved it as a single lot.
well,
Not necessarily.
Yeah,
They recommended denial of
Yeah.
the plat waiver, which would authorize 2 lots.
so this is zone, it's
I'm
a straight
confused.
zoning, so they couldn't take an action on platting. But I know that part of all this discussion was the 2 lots at R20 is a problem, not gonna happen.
Right.
Yes.
And
Right.
so,
It was a concern of theirs.
so
as
that's
well.
why I said, since they approved it, that implies to me they were assuming that this was gonna come in with 1 lot. It doesn't
I would say
matter.
yes.
This passed,
Doesn't really.
it's to us now, so it doesn't matter.
We can do whatever
doesn't
we
matter.
want anyway.
Yeah,
I know, but I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah.
yes.
Just a question, on the zoning, if we're going to go with R30 or whatever
Yeah.
they agree with, as far as a plat, are they going to then be required to consolidate the 2 lots at some point into a single lot?
Yes.
Okay.
And if they are proposing to do that at some later time, wouldn't it be beneficial if they did that now, even in a preliminary plat sense, as part of this zoning, in concert with the zoning process?
So our ordinance allows for minor plats to be approved administratively. So as a single lot, it would not require approval from the planning and zoning or the city council, as long as there was no plat waivers associated with it.
Excellent.
And so the plat was going forward, because we had to run it concurrently with the zoning.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to bring it until your second reading on this item.
Okay, great.
Now that they've decided to withdraw the plat waiver option. It'll be a single lot, and so it's a staff approval.
Okay,
And
great.
so it is in process. It is going side by side
Okay.
with this.
And so what I would request as part of this process then is instead of the zoning exhibit that was provided, just provide the plat then as the zoning exhibit.
The current drawing shows 2 lots on the
Yes.
plat exhibit.
No, but I'm just saying for the next action by the council and theoretic.
We can ask to see if they can update that for us.
Just have if you've got the plat in process already, just have that as your exhibit as part of the zoning.
And what I'm saying is that the plat exhibit shows 2 lots, because that's what they were requesting.
Yes,
So I don't have one that shows a single lot.
and so what I would assume is if it's been surveyed already, that should be fairly easy to adjust, maybe not.
Right.
And so that would be something I would think would be beneficial to have next time for the council's consideration, so they can address that as a proper exhibit, since the exhibit we have now no longer is applicable.
Well, this exhibit is, well, I see what you're saying, yeah.
It's
I
got
think
some
this does
notes
show
and
the 2
things on it
lots
that
as
are-
well, yeah.
And it's got
We
some
can't-
notes, and it's got cross-access easements, things that are intended for the original purpose, which I certainly understand, but that I think are going to be different than what is finally considered by this council, and therefore, it should reflect those final actions and be in line with those as well.
We should be able to get that for you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Good.
any other question for Ben?
No.
Very good. Then I haven't opened the public hearing yet. I want to open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. I do have some cards. Adam Shields. You're the applicants, right?
I'm the applicant, I'm Nancy Scott,
Oh, okay.
217 Fountain View Drive in Euless.
Okay,
And I am the builder of the proposed property.
okay, very good.
I also
Your
happen
card.
to be second cousins with the owner's mother,
Okay, very good.
for full disclosure.
Yeah,
And the owner is here as well.
okay,
The owners were actually out of town during the planning and zoning meeting,
okay.
and they were out of the country on a
Yeah.
long-planned vacation
Good.
when this all happened. And so they came back in and we've discussed it thoroughly. And I only informed Ben yesterday that we had decided to withdraw the request for the
Okay.
plat waiver and go with a single lot.
Okay.
So there's been some discussion in the week they've been back in the country.
Mhm.
So they have decided to do that.
Very good.
Thank you.
So, and I know y'all have talked about the R30 because of the width of the lot and the location of the driveway. They do need the 10-foot setback on the side of the lot for the proposed new construction. And I believe that's the same on R30 as it is on R20.
10 or
I-
15.
I think it is. Ben, can you answer that? I can't see you over there, but I know you're there.
There was a slide a minute ago that
It
showed.
may
Oh,
be
okay, did it? Okay.
I think it's 15. isn't it?
I think it was on the previous article.
It has the R20 then.
I can look it up for you.
Let's see.
I can look it up too.
Yeah, so the R30 does also maintain a 10-foot side
Okay,
setback.
so they're
Oh,
the
okay.
same. Yeah.
Then
That's
it
fine.
should be fine.
Okay.
May I ask a question on that?
I'm
So
sorry.
the need for the need for the setback was on the eastern line? Is that the point?
It is the east side. Yes, they're planning on putting the house probably 10 or 12 feet off that east property line because the driveway is on the west. And there's
Yeah.
also a utility line, an overhead utility line, and they have to be at least 10 feet from that.
That,
We're
right.
discussing removing that utility line, but right now, it's
That's the
kind of
7.5 drainage
limiting the
utilities.
area, the width.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello. Adam Schiller, 2001 Hall Johnson Road. The property owner, and just here to answer any questions y'all might have for me.
You have any questions? You agreed with everything that's been said so far? Okay,
Sir,
I think
been
you
doing
probably addressed them then.
Yes,
Yeah. No,
I'm good.
Very good.
no,
Well,
if
thank
we
you.
c- if we can
I'll
do
send you out.
R30, I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all the cards I have. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? I see no one indicating that. I'm going to close the public hearing. So again, this is first reading. This will be on the agenda next time for action and a vote. So we'll move to agenda item 5D.
I
This
think,
is-
one thing, I think someone mentioned that there was two two letters, right, of concern? Or were there not for this?
I believe so, and I think we updated this packet, so it should have been in.
I think it was in the packet, and I think one of them had to do with drainage. So, is that correct?
And just like city manager said, we review drainage as part of the permit process.
Understand.
and so-
Okay. Thank you.
Everybody good to move to 5D? Good. 5D is first reading and public hearing of ordinance O-19-2083, consideration of a special use permit for oil and gas extraction, specifically for a change in the ownership of the existing well on Track 1D, Abstract 295 in the William E. Crooks in Lot 1, Block 1 of the Parks Place Estates located at 7404 and 7504 Pleasant Run Road, case ZC 18-035. So, Ben, go ahead. I think you're gonna get where I wanna go.
Yeah, I have some updates from
Okay.
when this was heard at the Planning and Zoning Commission. So this is our existing gas well site up on the north end of town off Pleasant Run. This was a special use permit approved for this use back in 2010. The user did drill 7 wells at this site.
Yeah.
But they have not been active since they were drilled. So this is an aerial photo of the actual site in question. The current zoning is our agricultural district, but again, it does have a special use permit approved back in 2010 to authorize the activity. Future land use map designates this area for residential use. We took several sets of photos, this one back in March. You can see it is set pretty far off of the road. There are some gates that prevent access. There's gates there at the front as well as around the perimeter of the gas well site as well. This is later on in March. The site does appear to be well kept. We did verify it meets all of our screening and landscaping requirements. I did revise the site exhibit. The intent on this request is to transfer the ownership from the previous owner to the existing current owner of Sage Natural Resources. We initially provided the exhibit that was part of the original SUP. They no longer have privileges to drill. It showed an area for how that would operate. So we took that off. There are only 7 wellheads at this site. I think originally they were allowed up to 14, but again, they are not able to drill. So we did update the site plan for that. Again, the main intent on this is to comply with Section 3.1, 145E2, which states that the SUP authorized under this ordinance shall only be granted to the entity named on the original application and may not be transferred to any other entity without the approval of the city council. So that's what we were doing, is trying to make that official to Sage Natural Resources. In looking at the SUP ordinance, it authorized drilling, but they had 5 years to begin that and finish that. It's been more than 5 years, and so they can no longer drill. Actually, that's the proposed ordinance. We also had a question at the Planning and Zoning Commission about production. We were unsure whether this site had ever produced at all, if any of the wells had produced. Since that time, we did look at the Texas Railroad Commission official website where reports are maintained monthly, and we did verify that these wells, all 7 of them, have never produced, and we provided those reports to you. What the report says, as far as what we were able to download, as far as the entry, it says no RPT, so our assumption is that means no report, which means there was no production. We did look at a producing well site, and there's definitely numerical values in each of those months to report. So we're fairly confident that they've never produced. We need to still verify that completely. With that being the case, there is some language in the Land Development Code that states if after the drilling has been met, The gas well operator shall have 5 years from the approval date of the special use permit, allowing the gas well to begin, I should say, well production. If no well production has begun within 5 years, the SUP shall automatically expire, and the operator shall be subject to abandonment provisions of this ordinance.
Right.
It has been longer than 5 years, and so my determination is that they also have lost their privileges for any production on the well, and therefore the SUP really then basically goes away, and they would need to begin the abandonment process.
So let me be clear on this item. So this is first reading of ordinance, but based on what you've described, been longer than 5 years since the SUP was produced. It has not gone into production in those 5 years. Therefore, there is no SUP. There is no instrument right now. Because there is no SUP, it has expired. It does not exist. There can be no action taken on this because there's nothing to act on. So there is no SUP. That means basically nothing can be done on this site by anybody regarding the wells, drilling, production, or anything else. Is that correct?
Sounds like.
I'm asking the city attorney.
That's correct, Mayor. Your reading of the LDC is correct.
I wanted to make that perfectly clear, because many people were concerned about this, because since this was approved in 2010, there's been a subdivision put in, as you pointed out on your exhibit, that is within the 1,000 feet.
Yes.
And so there's there really is nothing else for us to do tonight, except to explain to citizens that is the case. Those are the facts that they are. And so this will really not show up anymore.
It'll go away.
Yeah, there was nothing, there's no right to use for drilling at all. Now, that doesn't mean that the current owners won't come back and request something to the city, but this item is over. There's nothing on this item to do, correct?
Right. And what we will try and do is get an official report from the Texas Railroad Commission, just so that that validates.
Well, our
what we were
position
able to
right
do.
now is that. What I just stated
Okay.
is the city's position, period.
Great.
Now, you've got some homework to do, that's fine.
Do we,
Okay.
is there a need to somehow indicate on the SUP itself that it is now null and void?
Well, let me ask
There
the
is no
city.
SUP.
No, there is no SUP, so.
It doesn't exist.
Correct.
Right.
It's expired under the express terms of the LDC, so the SUP
Yeah.
of its own terms just goes away.
So nothing
That's
can
the way
happen.
the ordinance is written.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one last statement for the citizens that are here that came to speak in a public hearing. We're not going to have a public hearing because we do not recognize there's an SUP or any action to take. Therefore, there is no reason to have a public hearing. So that's why we're doing it. So, I don't think there's anything else to be said
I don't
about
think so,
this.
too, either.
Nope.
Okay.
You
Great.
explained it well,
Thank
Mayor.
you. So we move, so I'm going to ask the indulgence for you guys. I need a 5-minute recess, and I mean 5 minutes. I'll be right back.
Keep it even. Yeah, absolutely.
quiet pasture. It's like a nice.
Ever like directly just asked me a question.
People are very suspicious of government.
I don't know, I mean, she's like a friend, like, she's like, look at my kids, I mean, it's like.
I had a person, I had,
We don't really hang out, but it's more of a friend or.
my stepdad, my stepdad passed away. My mom started dating and ended up marrying a guy who was a police lieutenant in the city I worked in, okay? To this day, when we talk at family functions, we talk about the community, tell me things like I wasn't even there.
Yeah, but he was like, take my time.
I know, I would have got mine out, I'm like,
Oh my gosh, I
Hello?
forgot to bring mine today.
He was there, he's like, and he's telling me things that the upper echelon was doing that I was one doing it. He's like,
way to make this happen.
I've always.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They have to, what they have to do is they have to.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Thank you.
Sometimes though what'll happen is you'll look at 3 parcels, one will have $1, second will have $1, third one has always.
Where did Tammy go? You're the lone, I'm sorry you had to wait. Oh, well, great, I appreciate that. So yeah, that's great. So-
Because she had a free minute.
Oh, you're a diamond in the rough with us.
yeah, Great.
We're glad you're here.
Right. I'm calling the meeting back to order at 9:23. Very good. We are now at agenda item 6A, and it will be pretty short. We only have 2 more. I think. Let me find the resolution.
We're all waving at 'em.
We're all,
Sorry, the elevator. We're waiting for the mayor's father and wife, yeah.
I know what's in here.
man, the stories that guy could tell.
Pardon?
The stories that guy could.
Oh, yeah, he's got he's got some good stories. Okay. This is reading in public hearing of Resolution R-19-4389. A resolution approving a preliminary plat for the Oak Alley addition, whereas the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the preliminary plat for the Oak Alley addition on May 13, 2019. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Colleyville, Texas, Section 1, that the preliminary plat for Oak Alley addition on approximately 43.536 acres attached as Exhibit A, plat exhibit, is hereby approved, and it is so resolved. Ben?
All right, thank you. This is the preliminary plat for the Oak Alley subdivision. As you recall, we recently rezoned this property to PUDR a few months ago. That was the aerial photo. So it is now PUDR, Plan Unit Development Residential. It does comply with the future land use designation of residential. This was the development plan that was approved. They also did submit a preliminary plat exhibit as part of the PUD. So this is the formal process for this to be approved. They are preparing their construction documents currently. They have not submitted those yet. When they submit those, they will also submit the final plat. And so you will see that coming back to you shortly as well. I do have other exhibits if you want to go through them, but you've seen these before. Again, this would be 34 lots for single-family residential. We do recommend approval as a staff. It does comply with all of the requirements per the PUDR as well as the Land Development Code, and the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommends approval.
So why didn't we approve this when we did the zoning?
So there was no formal submittal. It was at your request that they submit the exhibit, but there is a formal process that they have to go through, and so that's why it's coming separately. In the
Okay.
future, we will
Do that.
strongly encourage and
Yeah.
use that as the example, this project as the example is that, yes, for PUDs, we want the preliminary plat as well.
And there's no changes whatsoever?
No.
Okay.
Strange question. Is there a possibility that we could change our LDC to require a preliminary plat with straight zoning request? Or is that not something we could ask for? If, in cases where platting is involved.
That's a good question. I don't know that I know the answer off the top of my head. I don't know of anything that would prohibit that. You say on a preliminary plat?
Yes. In cases where there's obviously a subdivision or division of the property going to take place in the future.
So I know a lot of applicants choose not to do that because of the cost that's involved. There's greater cost with the platting, with the engineering plans and such. And so they want to see if the entitlements are approved first before they go down that road.
I get it.
I'm just saying that's.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm just asking, is it even something that's a minor change to our LDC?
They are separate approval processes. I mean,
Yeah.
I can do some research to see what other communities, if there are other communities that require it. As far as the detailed plan, we do require a detailed plan sufficient, which is, you know, I suppose in most cases they will have something that is a preliminary plat level.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense, but, because actually we had two cases tonight. If we had that in place, it would have answered those questions, or some of the key questions, so.
Yeah, and we did have a plat with one of them. I just didn't have it on this agenda because it's a single reading for the plats.
Yeah.
And it was going to be on next agenda.
Which one?
The one on Hall Johnson.
Okay.
I wasn't trying to imply, I don't think you're
Yeah.
doing anything wrong. It's just a question of a procedural process
Right.
to change the way in which zoning and platting are separated and to kind of marry them where it's appropriate, at least in a preliminary sense.
Yeah.
Certainly the final plat, I get the fact there's a lot of engineering and a lot of cost involved, so I can certainly see that not being a initial step for fear that there's something will go awry. But a preliminary plat's pretty straightforward, and so I just was curious.
So I'll let you with does this right, so you said you didn't think anything
I don't
precluded that.
I don't
Is that
think
something you need to
anything.
look at, or are we good enough to go?
Well, I don't think anything legally precludes it, because, I mean, as we've talked about, a preliminary plat in legal effect is basically a site plan. But I think what you're asking, and it sounds to me like Ben's saying we have a process, separate application for subdivision versus straight zoning, and whether or not you could consolidate that where the applicant selects that there will be subdivision of this land, check the box, and then, well, if that's the case, then you'll also have to submit the following, which should include a preliminary plat, something like that. It would be the process I'm guessing you were talking about.
Where subdivision is taking place, and I think by not submitting one, you're saying that subdivision is not intended to take place, which is also a reasonable statement by an applicant.
Right, and because what you're saying is if the subdivision will take place, then staff is going to require you to bring forward your subdivision information now along with your zoning.
Yes.
And, you know, so it'd be a consolidation of the two processes in that regard administratively.
Yes.
And, I mean, there's nothing legally that I can possibly think of that would prevent it. But again, the claim would be it's an onerous, arbitrary cost, you know, increase. And I think for the reasons we've stated here, that's likely and, you know, likely not to get any real traction because it's not a final plat, it's not an engineering, it's not a sealed and delivered document. It's really a site plan slash minor plat that meets, or a preliminary plat that meets our requirements.
But the cost of a preliminary plat is much lower than a final plat. And so I would think there's some fairness to the statement that some of the things we already require in a preliminary plat, as it relates to preliminary topography, preliminary drainage, those are fairly easy to assess in a simplified approach. That certainly may change when you get to final plating, and that's understandable, but at least it gives us a better roadmap of where they're intending to go. And it also gives us an exhibit that is part of that zoning process that we can anticipate will be the final plat and is reflective of what is to be expected from that zoning change.
Do you require a site plan, Ben, with a straight zoning request? Is that ever required?
It depends on the request, so.
If they're developing it?
The one on Glade, it was already a platted lot, and then there was an area in question. So that one is unique. If it was unplatted, we knew it was going to be a single lot. Well, as a single lot, it wouldn't require approval from the council, and we would just have the zoning action anyway. But with subdivisions, we definitely, and it behooves all of the applicants to have a plan of some kind, and so we can definitely say it needs to be a preliminary plat. Give us that level of detail. Now, what you will see, though, is the zoning will have to do the first reading by itself, and then we'd have the preliminary plat and the second reading go together.
Because it's a resolution action, not an ordinance action?
Right, it only requires one reading, and the zoning is necessary for the plat to be approved, otherwise you're granting waivers to the previous zoning. Yeah.
Procedurally.
That makes sense. It just was a curiosity, and I think it might be something we either can look at whether we need to change as part of our upcoming discussion of Chapter 3 changes anyway, or even as part of our bigger picture policy discussion. It's just a thought.
So Legacy North is probably the better example because it was requested to go to R20.
Yes.
They had, their exhibit that they originally submitted was a preliminary plat, but we did not bring the preliminary plat item until later because they wanted to have the entitlements before they continued down the path of finalizing the preliminary plat.
And in a PUD, it makes a lot of sense, but these 1 or 2 lot situations aren't going to be a PUD. And so that's why I bring it up. And for the major relative, I mean, major is a relative term, but for the true subdivisions, we're going to probably do a PUD at this point, from this point forward anyway. But for the individual 1-2 lot type consolidation / subdivision, it would be nice to know that at time of zoning, where they're going. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of good example, the lot on Glade today.
Yeah.
The question is it going to be 2 lots or 1 lot? Well, the applicant tells us, but the preliminary plat confirms it.
Right.
So, or final plat, whatever. So, thank you.
Yep.
So, on this case, so we talked about this zoning when this was zoned ad nauseum and in a lot of detail. So is this Exhibit A, which is now a plat exhibit, is that one of the exhibits that was used previously?
Yes.
In the zoning case?
That's right.
So is it in the zoning itself, this exhibit?
Yes.
Okay, because my next question was, okay, it needs to be exactly what it was. So you're saying it actually was a zoning exhibit, so we're just now calling it out as a plat exhibit?
It wasn't exactly the zoning exhibit because we had the development plan as well, but this was, at your request, submitted and was also included into the PUD.
Right, okay, that's what I was remembering, okay.
Yes.
So there's no question about that one. Now, so we've talked a lot about this next question in previous zoning cases where we didn't have a final plat, and we were talking about when can they start building stuff? And we've, latest rendition of that was, well, when they get the final engineering drawings done.
So they are working on those
Okay.
construction documents now, so when they submit those to us, they will also include the final plat submittal.
But until the final plat's approved, there'll be no notice to proceed.
Okay. Do we need to say that in here?
If you'd like to, that's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah, why not?
But-
That's, I was thinking, why not?
As long as I don't get hit by a bus, I can guarantee it, but I never know about that bus. So
Now, you're a little shaky, so. or somebody might hit you with a bus on purpose.
No, I don't think
That's always
so.
possible.
You know, I'm minimizing risk here. Okay,
But yes,
so,
you can add conditions to plat approval.
yeah, okay, so how do we say that? So I do want to add section 2 then, that basically says that, how do we say it?
Well, let's capture exactly what we want to do.
Okay, tell them.
Notice a notice to proceed for infrastructure improvements related to the development shall not be issued until such time as final plat is approved and executed by council action. Executed meaning someone signed it.
Okay, so the purpose, if I'm understanding correctly, is that we do not want any staff permit approvals for construction of public facilities
Public or private in this case,
Or
because it's
private.
private roads.
until final plat's approved.
Yes,
Yeah.
And because that won't get approved unless final engineering drawings are done, or final
That's correct.
design is done.
Right,
But that's one way to say it.
yes, sir.
right. Well, I think you stated that correctly, so I think the condition is that no permit shall be issued for, is it all just improvements?
Yeah, infrastructure improvements, public and private.
No permit shall be issued for the construction of infrastructure improvements or permits, public or private, until such time as a final plat has been approved by the city council.
Yep.
I think that covers it.
I captured it.
Great. Okay. Any other questions for Ben? No? Nope. Thank you. I'm going to open a public hearing. Public hearing is open. I have a card, Kathy Hadley.
Kathy Hadley, 204 Timberline Drive North, represent myself, and I don't want any plat approved because the developer is just making bucks at our expense. Colleyville is a beautiful city, and back in the day, we used to drive down John McCain and look at those houses way at the house way at the top of the hill with all that beautiful acreage, and there were several of them. And now they want to squeeze on I don't know how many houses, and I know the developer worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and tried to make everybody happy, and I think that, everybody kind of came to a conclusion that this is probably the best thing, but you know what? The more I think about it, this is at Colleyville's expense. We are known for the big, beautiful lots, the trees, the wildlife, the geese. And here, that beautiful piece of land is being just filled with houses. That's not Colleyville. That's not what Colleyville was. And I'm trying to hang on to the land. So I don't want y'all to please, I don't want you to approve that plat. I would like more spacious lots. And I know people from the other side get angry. Everybody needs to make a buck. Well, not at my expense, not at Colleyville's expense. So I hope that y'all hear what I'm saying. So I would like a plat that has a lot more land to it and fewer homes. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the cards I have. Anyone else wish to speak? See no one indicating, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. So this is a resolution. We'll take action tonight. Any other discussion? Okay.
I'll move to approve Resolution R-19-4389.
I second.
Will you add to that motion the change that we just talked about?
Okay, in the motion, I'd like to include the change that the city manager itemized out.
Yeah, I think, did you get that, City Secretary?
This was per the city attorney.
Yeah.
No permit shall be issued for infrastructure improvements, public or private, until such time as a final plat?
That is approved by the city council. Is that accurate? Correct. Yeah. Okay, so that.
So recorded?
Yes.
Accept that? Okay, so that is accepted into the motion. So we have a motion to approve with that change by Councilmember Weed, a second by Councilmember Dodson. So I think we're ready to vote. Would you open the vote, please? Let me show it. Motion's approved, therefore the resolution is approved. Moving to agenda item B, appointing members. This is a resolution in public hearing, Resolution R-19-4389, a resolution approving a, nope, I'm sorry. Didn't get to the right page. Here it is. Resolution R-19-4390, a resolution appointing members to the Parkland Dedication Committee, whereas the Parkland Dedication Committee is comprised of 2 members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and 2 members of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and whereas the Parkland Dedication Committee members' terms coincide with the members' terms on the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and whereas the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends the appointment of Claudia Bevel and Kimberly Holt to the Parkland Dedication Committee, whereas the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board recommends the appointment of Ajit Purandar to the Parkland Dedication Committee. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Colleyville by the City Council of the City of Colleyville, Texas, Section 1, that the City Council hereby appoints the following members to the Parkland Dedication Committee to a term expiring September 2019. Claudia Bevel, Ajit Purandar. Section 2, that the City Council hereby appoints the following member to the Parkland Dedication Committee to a term expiring September 2020, Kimberly Holt, and it is so resolved. Okay, that's self-explanatory. Council have any comments before I open the public hearing? Public hearing is open. Have no cards. Anyone wish to speak? I see no one indicating they want to speak, so I close public hearing. If there's no, motion is in order.
I make a motion to approve resolutions R-19-4390.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion to approve by Councilmember Nakamura, second by Councilmember Wheat. Would you open votes, please? Let me show it.
Mine's not there. It just wasn't saving.
Okay, that motion is approved, therefore the resolution is approved. Okay, we've already done 7 and 8, so that brings us to 9, which is Parks and Recreation Advisory Board minutes. And so I did read those minutes, and I do want to, for future reference, point something out in these minutes. And item 3C, hang on. Oh, yeah, 3B, I'm sorry. They elected a chair and vice chair for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. That was February the 4th, 2019. Rich Hindler was motioned by Jit Puranda and seconded by Eric Presson, and that motion carried unanimously. So the Parks Board unanimously voted Rich Hindler as chair on February the 14th, February the 4th. Just wanted to point that out for later. That's all I had on these items. Any other comments? If not, then lo and behold, item 10 is we do not need an ending resolution. Therefore, that takes us to item 11, which is adjournment. So I'm going to adjourn if no one objects. Do I hear an objection?
Of course.
I didn't. George's objection. Okay. We're adjourned. Thank you, guys. 9:45.
9:45, not bad.
Before 10
Not
o'clock.
bad. Yeah, a lot.